everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Huck. Today we are talking about 2025 most anticipated releases for the first half of the year. I usually like to split this up, do the first half of the year, and then around June, July, I'll do one for the second half of the year once more stuff has been announced. So this is just for the first 6 months of 2025, but let me tell you, 2025 is stacked. Like, I am so excited about so many books. There are a lot of authors that I love, some favorite authors who have things coming out in 2025, and I'm so looking forward to it. I feel like the last few years have been kind of light in terms of like anticipated releases for me, at least, but this year there's some exciting stuff coming. I have 18 books to talk about today, and these are things that I am interested in. Not all of them are things that I'm like guaranteed to buy or read in the next year, but a lot of them I probably will because I'm so excited. But these are ones that I am going to be keeping an eye on, that I'm very interested in. I have a mix of books from authors that I know and love, and a few books from newer authors that I don't know, but I'm very interested in. I will split these up by release month. As of now, of course, release dates do change sometimes, so it may change, but as of right now, these are the release dates that I can find on Goodreads. So let's just get started. I've got Goodreads, I've got my spreadsheet, I've got everything. So let's start with a book that actually may not be a highly anticipated book, but I am probably going to buy it and read it, which is Adrift in Currents Clean and Clear by Seanan McGuire. This is the 10th and I think final book in the Wayward Children series, which is her series of novellas about kids going to portal worlds. This series has had some ups and downs for me. In general, I have enjoyed it, but also I will say in general, I usually don't enjoy portal fantasy. So the fact that this is a portal fantasy series that I like is unheard of, honestly, for me. But I think that the series has kind of gone downhill for me a little bit. I really enjoyed the first few books, and there have been some like gems here and there, but as it's gone on, the last few books just haven't really done it for me. So I'm going to read this last one because it's the last one, you know. I've done the rest of the series, so I may as well, and they're novellas, so it's easy. But I'm just like not as excited about this one anymore. But if this is in fact the final book, I am very curious how she will wrap up and like end the series. Next up, also in January, we have Water Moon by Samantha Soto Yambao, which looks like it's going to be very whimsical. It says, a woman inherits a pawn shop where you can sell your regrets and then embarks on a magical journey when a charming young physicist wanders into the shop in this dreamlike and enchanting fantasy novel. So this takes place in Tokyo, I believe, or at least starts there. She may end up in a magical world, but it sounds like it's going to be very whimsical in a way that I find very intriguing. Next, we have actually a contemporary, which is Once Smitten, Twice Shy by Chloe Leese. This is the third and last book in the Wilmot Sisters trilogy. So Chloe Leese wrote the Bergman Brothers series, which I binged earlier this year, and I loved it. I also read the first 2 books in the Wilmot Sisters trilogy. I didn't like them as much. There's a lot of stuff, like decisions that characters make, where I'm just like, how does this make sense to you? Like, make it make sense to me, because this is, I don't understand what's happening. Like, how did you get from A to B? But it's still fun, and also I already read the first two, so I do want to read this last one. It's not going to be a high priority. Contemporary romance in general isn't a high priority for me, and I am not always in the mood for it, but at least once a year there is some point in the year that I am in the mood for contemporary romance, and then I tend to binge a whole bunch of them all at once. So this, whenever that happens in 2025, this will be on the list. Next up, we have The House of Frost and Feathers by Lauren Weisbrunn. And this is described as spinning silver meets Howl's Moving Castle, which sounds delightful. I loved both Spinning Silver and Howl's Moving Castle. So it says it is a beautiful debut of Slavic folklore fantasy. I do love folklore-inspired fantasy. Slavic-inspired folklore can be a little hit or miss for me, but there are definitely some that I have really liked. So and with those comp titles, I'm very excited for this. It says, Marisha's life is not going as she expected. With the sleeping plague only a few months away, she's as desperate for money as she is to escape her aunt's torturous marriage prospects. Leaving all that she's known behind, Marisha accepts a job working with the notorious Baba Zima in her house that glides on chicken feet through the snow. But Baba Zima is renowned for being both clever and cruel, and most difficult of all is her current apprentice, Olena, who wants nothing to do with Marisha. Despite her fears and Olena's cold demeanor, Marisha finds herself drawn into a magical world and delves further into Olena's research, a cure for the sleeping plague. There's more to it, but I think we get the gist of this. It sounds really interesting. I am a little apprehensive about the fact that it is so like plague-centric. Plagues have never been like a favorite trope of mine, but especially since COVID, it's something that I also am like not a huge fan of reading about in my fiction, but it still sounds really interesting, so I want to give it a try. Now we are on to February, and one of my most anticipated releases of the year, I'm so excited, which is The Amber Owl by Juliet Marillier. So Juliet Marillier has a new series starting. She's with a new publisher, which is very interesting, and I do wonder if that is going to impact the book at all, but always excited for something coming out from Juliet Marillier. And I do believe this is starting a new series. I can't remember if this is starting a duology or a trilogy, but there will be at least one more book after this. So it says, Stasia lives in an isolated farming village on the edge of the mysterious Heartwood Forest with her unusual dog for company. Thought odd by the locals, she is tolerated for her rare gift with animals. The peace of Heartwood is shattered when a group of soldiers descends under orders from the ruler of the Northlands. They're to hack a path through the forest and find the fabled treasure said to lie deep within. But nobody has ever gone deep into the Heartwood Forest and returned safe and well. When Stasia raises her voice in protest, she is removed from her beloved home and transported to court, a different world. Help comes from an unlikely quarter, secrets abound, dangers lie everywhere, and it is hard to tell friend from foe. As Stasia and her band of unlikely allies embark on a perilous mission, it becomes apparent that uncanny forces may indeed be involved, and maybe the old tales of the hermit are true. I'm just so excited about it. And then also in February, we have Upon a Starlit Tide by Kel Woods. And this, honestly, I love this cover. Like, it sounds interesting, but this cover, I'm not even really a mermaids person. Like, I know mermaids are really popular right now. I'm not even a huge fan of mermaids, but like, oh my gosh, this cover is beautiful. It says it is a dark and enchanting fairy tale inspired historical fantasy combining elements of The Little Mermaid and Cinderella into a wholly new original tale of love, power, and betrayal. Set in 1758. I just feel like this is going to be very like magical, and I don't really need to know that much more about it. I'm so intrigued. Then moving on into March, we have The Morrigan by Kim Curran, and this one says, They called me the Morrigan. I was magnificent. I was multitudes. They twisted my story, stripped me away, but I will tell it now in my own voice. It begins, as all the best stories do, in darkness. From an ancient, storm-tossed sea, a tribe of gods reached the rocky shores of Ireland. Among them, a strange, hungry, red-haired girl. A girl who can change shape from bird to beast to goddess. A girl who dreams of battle, of blood, of death, and power. She does not yet know that a woman who seeks to rule will always be in danger, or that there are far more treacherous figures in this land than the gods who raised her. And I think this just sounds so interesting. So it sounds like it is another one of those retellings where it takes especially like a female character from myth that is maybe a villain or not a sympathetic character and is telling her story, her perspective. So that sounds like it'll be really interesting. I think that was the only one that I had for March. So now we're on to April. And in April, we have a new release from K. Ankrum, which I'm so excited about. And I'm starting to wonder if I should really consider K. Ankrum a favorite author, because honestly, I love everything that she writes. Everything is usually at least 4 stars for me, if not 5 stars. And I just consistently enjoy her books. So I am so excited. She's really like an auto-buy, auto-read author for me at this point. And I loved Icarus, which came out in 2024. So excited for a new book from her. So this one coming out in 2025 is The Corruption of Hollis Brown. And this one is described as a queer romantic thriller in which the lives of Hollis, a boy in search of meaning, and Walt, a spirit with unfinished business, collide when Walt takes possession of Hollis's body and maybe his heart. I don't know. I just know that I'm going to like it because it's from K. Ankrum, so I'm excited. Then we also have A Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is the second book in the Leviathan trilogy. I don't remember. It's Shadow of the Leviathan series. And the first book was The Tainted Cup, which came out this year. And I read that recently, enjoyed it. I'm interested to see what the next book is like. So that should be coming out in April. We also have Mirror or Mare by Danielle Giles. This is historical fiction. I'm not sure. It doesn't sound exactly like something I would always read, but I am intrigued. It says, the mare has fingers, clever fingers to reach through the marsh and wrap around little ankles, strong arms to pull poor sinners downwards, and a great gaping belly that can never be filled. It is a strikingly beautiful historical novel about fear and survival, power and position, and a love that takes hold in the darkest of places. So this is set in Norfolk, 1990 AD. It says, deep in the fens, isolated by a vast and treacherous mere, an order of holy sisters make their home under the steely guidance of Abbess Singberg. They follow God's path. Once again, there's more to it, but it just sounds kind of weird and interesting. And I do want to read more historical fiction, so maybe I'll read that. Next up, we have Boys with Sharp Teeth by Jenny Howell. And this is pitched as We Were Liars meets The Raven Boys in this mind-bending YA debut about dark revenge, twisted desire, and the sinister secrets lurking behind the walls of an elite boarding school. I have seen a couple of early reviews for this. The people have really loved it and are confirming that it is similar to The Raven Boys. So definitely worth giving it a shot. Then next up we have A Palace Near the Wind by Ai Jiang. And this is a fantasy novella that is compared to Neon Yang's The Black Tides of Heaven. It has other comp titles too, but I love The Black Tides of Heaven, so that is very intriguing to me. It also has an extremely beautiful cover, and it is described as a richly inventive, brutal and beautiful sci-fantasy novella, which is a story of family, loss, oppression, and rebellion. So that all sounds great. Lastly, we have Spellbound by Georgia Layton, and I believe this is a Sleeping Beauty retelling. Don't quote me on that because I'm not totally sure, but I think that is what it is a retelling of, and it just sounds like it'll be interesting. I am intrigued. I like the cover. All right, on to May. We have The Sun-Blessed Prince by Lindsay Bird, and this says, on a hotly contested battlefield, a prince whose touch creates life meets a soldier chosen by death, but can they forge a future together from opposite sides of a great war? It is a lyrical and character-driven queer fantasy for those who loved She Who Became the Sun and The Song of Achilles and Lucy Holland's sister song. So two of those I have not read, but I did love Sister Song. Loved Sister Song, love a queer fantasy, and I believe that one of the characters in this has healing magic, so I am in. Then we also have Brighter Than Scale, Swifter Than Flame by Neon Yang, which is another queer fantasy. This is a queer Asian-inspired fantasy novella about a renowned dragon slayer who never takes her armor off in public. Brighter Than Scale, Swifter Than Flame reads like She Who Became the Sun meets the Mandalorian with dragons. I am mostly excited about this because I love The Black Tides of Heaven by Neon Yang. Last year, was it last year that they put out The Genesis of Misery? I wasn't as much a fan of that, but that was a full novel and a sci-fi. So I'm really excited to see them coming back to fantasy and novellas. This is also a great cover. Like, I don't need to know anything more. I'm just excited. Next up, we have The Floating World by Axie O, which this is also mostly one that I think the cover looks fantastic. I did try to read that other book from Axie O that I don't remember the title of, and I couldn't really get into it, so I'm not totally sure about this one, but I'm just so interested in it. I love the cover so much that I might give it a shot anyway. Then in June, we have The Listeners by Maggie Stiefvater, which I'm actually very conflicted about. How do I feel about this book? It says that it is a genre-defying debut adult novel. It is set in the Avalon Hotel, I believe during or soon after World War II, and the main character works at this hotel. It says, at the Avalon, real power comes to those who watch and listen. High in the Appalachian Mountains is a place quite like unlike any other. The Avalon Hotel and its enigmatic general manager, June Hudson, are famed for offering unrivaled luxury season after season to those who come from far and wide to indulge in its beautiful hot springs and take the healing waters. Everything is perfect, perhaps too perfect. So when the Avalon is called upon to help the war effort, to oust its guests and host 300 diplomats and Nazi sympathizers, June's priority is business as usual. But as dark alliances and unexpected attractions crack the polished veneer of the hotel, she is forced to reckon with the true price of luxury. After all, only June knows the sacrifice required to keep everyone happy. Her staff, the FBI, and above all, the tumultuous sweet water running through the heart of the hotel. The Listeners is a story of love, lies, secrets, and betrayal based on real events and steeped with eerie Appalachian magic and brought to life by a truly unforgettable ensemble cast of characters. Now, I love Maggie Stiefvater. I love The Raven Cycle. It's one of my favorite series of all time. So I'm usually very excited to see something new coming from her. I think it's very interesting that she is moving to writing adult general fiction, although it does seem like it's going to have some fantasy elements to it. She has posted some about like kind of her journey of learning more about like what is the difference between YA and adult and what is her kind of approach and perspective on that, which I think is interesting and I like, because I have definitely seen a lot of YA authors try to transition to adult and they don't adapt anything about their approach. And so then the books that are supposedly adult just read like YA. And there's nothing wrong with YA, but you know, you kind of expect something slightly different. And so I appreciate the effort that she has put into this transition. However, I will say, personally, I don't really like World War II stories. I find them kind of boring. It's not a time period I'm very interested in. I also feel like it's kind of played out. Like there's so much like World War II historical fiction. I don't really see how she's gonna add anything like new to it. Something that I normally would be excited about, I'm just sort of like, like I'm gonna read it, I'm gonna give it a shot, but I'm not expecting much. And hopefully I'll be proven wrong, I don't know. And then the last book that I have also in June is The Mercy Makers by Tessa Gratton. I'm so excited about this because it is the beginning of a new adult fantasy series from Tessa Gratton. And Tessa Gratton, like, her YA is a little hit or miss for me, but I love her Queens of Innisleer and Lady Hotspur, which are adult fantasy. And so I'm so excited to see her coming back to adult fantasy. I am really interested to see like if I like this, essentially because I sometimes wonder if maybe I just like her adult fantasy more than I like her YA fantasy, and I want to see if that is true. So I'm so excited for a new adult fantasy series from her. The cover is beautiful. It sounds so interesting. A little blurb about it, it says, a talented heretic must decide between the pursuit of forbidden magic or the ecstasy of forbidden love. Either way, her choice will upend the world in the start of a sweeping romantic epic fantasy trilogy. I'm so excited about this. Like this and The Amber Owl may be my two like most anticipated releases of the year, or at least of the first half of the year. And I'm so excited to have something, an adult fantasy coming out from Tessa Gratton. So those are all of my most anticipated releases for the first half of 2025. I would love to know if you are also anticipating any of these, or what are some of your most anticipated releases that maybe I didn't include on my list. But thank you all for watching, and until next time, bye.